What's going on, everybody? James Jackson here. I am out, as you can see. I was getting ready to go out to my morning jog, but before I do that, we got to talk about this bombshell that dropped this morning in terms of news. As you're probably reading by the title, yes, it is true. Nikon is expected to acquire Red as a subsidiary. And today I'm going to talk about what does this mean for the current DSMC3 lineup. What does this mean for in terms of relationships with the RF mounts, and possibly does this mean for Nikon as well as some of its competitors? All that and more today, because this is an episode of video we got that we need to discuss for ends on ends. What's going on, everybody? My name is James Jackson. If you're new here, I do tips, tricks, news, and reviews for the film and video making industry. So if this is content that you like, definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can stay up to date on all the content going forth. So this morning, we got a, an insane news story that just came out. Nikon has pulled a red wedding, no pun intended, but a red wedding level move right now to, I would say, Canon, with acquiring Red Digital Cinema as a subsidiary of their company. Essentially, what this means now is from this point on, all Red cameras are now going to be under the umbrella of Nikon. I'm going to read just a little bit of the press release. Now, I found this on, ironically, Canon Rumors, but because it's obviously they own the RF mount, I think this was worth mentioning. But again, I'm only going to read it a little bit. I'll leave a link to the actual article in the description so you can read it for yourself. In a landmark move, Red Digital Cinema is excited to announce it will be acquired by Nikon Corporations. The agreement with Nikon, reached with Red's founder Jim Gennard and President Jared Land, signifies a new era of innovations and excellence in the professional filmmaking sector. This acquisition marks a significant milestone for Nikon, melding its rich heritage and professional and consumer image with Red's innovative prowess. Together, Nikon and Red are poised to redefine the professional digital cinema camera market, promising an exciting future of product development that will continue to push boundaries and what is possible for the film and video production. First, let's start off with why did Red start off with being bought out essentially by Nikon? And right now, no one knows definitively for sure, but I'm hearing from the streets that essentially Jared wanted to retire and was ready for it, and I guess was looking to just hand the company off to news. I was just shocked that it was Nikon. I would have, and like many other people, I guess some people that have heard about this or knew that some sort of acquisition was coming. I think we all were surprised that it was Nikon and not Canon, because obviously Canon has the RF mount. It made so much sense with Canon's history and with cinema cameras, and also their history with lenses and glasses. And the glass of Canon was the reason Red chose to go with the RF mount over all the others, even though Nikon came out with their Z mount long before that. So this was the fact. I don't know. I guess maybe Red made a move and then Nikon just made a better offer, and that is definitely a possibility. What does this mean for Red? What does this mean for the current lineup of Red cameras? Well, again, nothing is set in stone, but if I'm to guess, I'm gonna guess the current DSMC3 lineups are going to be discontinued in the next 6 to 12 months. If that is my guess, that they're going to discontinue them in the next 6 to 12 months, because it Nikon I don't see how Nikon is going to keep a series of cameras whose mount is tied to arguably their longest competitor in the camera in the camera world. Canon is like their long-standing rival. So I see no reason for them to keep the current DSM-C2s. They're probably going to discontinue, but I would also hopefully I hope Nikon will offer some sort of free upgrade path. Maybe they'll offer a Z mount version of the same camera lineups, and they'll just offer people to bring in their cameras and switch out the mounts. At least I hope that is the case, um, because yeah, that to me is almost a certain that the current lineup that is RF mount based, I'm almost certain those cameras are going. I think the only one that may last is probably the Raptor XL, simply because that is not necessarily RF mount based. You can swap that one. You can swap out the mount. It's not the dedicated mount. So that's the first thing. And then so with that, you got to also think, well, what does this mean for Canon? Because Canon just got dealt a major blow. Not like I said, when I said this was a red wedding, again, no pun intended, a red wedding style moment, it was a lot of it had to do with the fact that Nikon basically came in and just acquired arguably the second most popular cinema brand in the world, Ari still being the number one. Um, and essentially basically took that took that whole route in Canon's ecosystem away. And now, like if my theory is true, they're going to discontinue the RF mount systems and then move into Z mounts. Uh, that that is going to be a blow because you know Canon like there's nothing in Canon's ecosystem that it was like the Red cameras. And this may be the wake up call Canon needs in order to really pump out some serious camera products, some serious high end camera products now, because they could rely on Red to sort of hold that on, but that's not going to be the case anymore. So this is a major blow. And is Canon in trouble? I won't necessarily say that because their glass is still, I think, is still like a leader, a major leader in this mirrorless market. But their ecosystem took a serious damage just now, and man, what a power move by Nikon. Obviously, this means that Nikon, this really elevates Nikon to a whole nother stats, because that one of the things that I've been on a couple live streams with Simon of Ordinary Filmmakers and on a couple of Nikon releases, and the thing that I've always talked about was that Nikon doesn't really have an ecosystem that really is friendly to film and video production. This will definitely help it in a major way. So Nikon just won a major step stone where they didn't have to do serious investment in R&D to their to their to their current lines to bring out their own cameras. Now they can just R&D into a camera system that already has their own. What are some concerns that I have with this? One, the fact, again, Red is a subsidiary of Nikon, meaning it's not going to get rebranded into Nikon. So the red brand is still going to be there. But the fact that it now is under the leadership or under the umbrella of a company that really doesn't have any experience in the digital cinema world, that is a bit concerning. Now I'm sure that they're going to keep the people that were there with Red and were able to push that out. But still, this is now we got to start to keep an eye out. I personally believe on the business decisions that business decisions Nikon may do, because this will in effect affect their line. This will affect Red's sort of how is their model, how's their brand going to be affected by that with a company that really has no experience in the cinema world that has always had interest in getting into the cinema world, and now they just sort of just took in more or less an easy way out and trying to instead of doing the R&D work. So I'm really, really curious to see, but this is such a huge deal. And the final thing I talk about is what does this mean for uh, lens manufacturers? People like Cooke. Like Cooke just spent their effort to focus on RF and E mount because of companies like Sony with their Buranos and their Venice that use the E mount. But then in the RF system, you had cameras like Red. So that was the reason why, like, Red was a lot of the reason people invested into the RF mount system. And again, if my theory is true that Nikon will discontinue those and will stop producing those RF mount Red cameras, what does it mean to all these people that all these lens companies that like Cooke um and Pancros. I'm sorry. What's there's like another major company that I think it was Carl Zeiss. Yeah, I think it was Carl Zeiss. Carl Zeiss, Cooke, a lot of these major companies that invested and took their initial investments in the Sony E and RF mount system. Now they're going to have to take the Z mount very seriously, and people are going to have to start building. So again, that is a huge win for Nikon because a lot of these top end brands are going to start now having to really focus on the Z mount because now that they own Red. But anyways, this is a huge deal, man. These are a huge deal, guys. I would really love to know what you guys think. Let me know. Leave your comments down below. Are you shocked by this as me? What do you think this means for Red? What do you think this means for Sony? What do you think this means for Panasonic and Blackmagic, the other competitors? What does this mean for Nikon? What does this mean for Red? I would love to know. Leave your comments down below. And as always, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care, everyone.